So just a heads up for those of you that have not completed the game yet, this does contain spoilers. The gameplay I'll be talking over the top of it is after I've completed everything, so there is endgame spoilers, but do not fear. For those of you that have completed or are on the epilogue, sorry, there won't be any spoilers for you guys because it's not like mission gameplay, it's not story gameplay, it is purely just free roaming, hunting and stuff. So if you're in the epilogue, you're in the clear. If you're pre-chapter 6, I'd very much so recommend completing the game or completing chapter 6 at the least first. But without any further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Now, something a lot of people are not happy with is how Red Dead Redemption 2 ends, or more so how chapter 6 ends. So you've had your spoiler warning, end of chapter 6, Arthur Morgan dies. That's the biggest thing in the game. Now, for me personally, I don't particularly like that. I'm not a fan of the Arthur Morgan death. I like playing as John. John's a cool character. I like setting up his story for Red Dead Redemption 1, but I'm just not that invested into John anymore. I was 8 years ago, but I'm not anymore. I'm more invested into Arthur and his story, hence why I started a new game. I'm now on chapter 4. I'm literally just sitting on chapter 4 before Guarma so that I can just do all my side quests and challenges and get all the stuff from the trapper and get all the, just do much as I can with the area of the game that I'm in. I can do as much as I can there without having to progress through the actual story, because Arthur is that much better of a character in my opinion. Now, this video is obviously called How I Think It Should Have Ended. Now, if we take the game that we've got right now, I could kind of pluck it down and turn it into something that I would actually like. So, at the end of chapter 6, obviously Arthur dies. And then you play as, in the epilogue, you play as John, you hunt down Micah, so on and so forth. Now, what I thought would have been a way better idea is, Red Dead Redemption is obviously this huge franchise. It's this huge franchise. You have Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead 2, and Red Dead Revolver, which was the first one to all of them. I'm pretty sure there was one in between as well called like Red Dead Revolution that wasn't that big. So it's kind of interesting to see, how big this franchise has got. And from a financial standpoint, the logical thing for Rockstar to do would be make their next game Red Dead Redemption 3. Make a sequel, make the final one of the trilogy, a 10-year franchise, final one of the trilogy. That would be really, really cool. Now, I've heard rumours that they're going to do this, My mate Zach, he's very heavily invested into Red Dead. He loves Red Dead. He loves the whole community, the culture of it. He loves the game in general, which I respect. I love it as well. I'm a part of this community. I love it more than anyone. It's my favourite game ever, arguably, right? So, I would have loved to have seen a third one. But when you look at the time period they've got, it's kind of difficult to fit a third game in. Because after Red Dead Redemption 1, John dies, you play as Jack, the Wild West is coming to an end. You can't really do much in that setting. Red Dead Redemption 2 fills the gap from 1899 to pretty much the first game. You have Arthur's story, Dutch's gang, everything falls apart, Arthur dies, John's story running up to the first game. He builds the ranch, and then at the end of the credits, if you sat and watched through them, Edgar Ross finds the ranch and says, that's the guy, that's the one we need to go after. That's the one they sort of push into the corner and then, make the first game happen. So the only logical step for Red Dead would be to go even further back in time and look at the gang when they were either younger, or look at the gang before they were a gang, or look at the prime stage of the gang, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is all about how the gang fell apart. Red Dead Redemption 1 is all about how the gang was, finished. Red Dead Redemption 3 could be about how the gang was in its prime, it could be about how the gang was this really notorious gang that robbed banks, they robbed boats, they robbed everything, and the end of the third game could be the robbery on the boat, and maybe you could play as Mac Callender, because Mac dies in the second game. When Milton says at the fishing spot, he says, Mac Callender, it was more of a mercy killing, but I killed him nonetheless. Rockstar love killing their characters off, so why not make us play as Mac? We know the death is coming, but we're still invested in his story, we still love him as a character, or just give us the ability to play as a younger Arthur, knowing that Arthur's going to be safe for most of this game, and then see what happens. That would be quite cool, but The thing that I would have thought they would have done with Red Dead Redemption 3 is to really, really make John's arc 100% more satisfying, is have Red Dead Redemption 2 as this scope, but just cut the epilogue. Just cut the epilogue clean off. What I proposed, or what I said to Zach, or what I thought they should have done if they wanted to make this game a trilogy, is have Red Dead Redemption 2 as Arthur Morgan's story. When Arthur Morgan dies, that is the end of the game. Red Dead Redemption 2 essentially dies with it. You know, that's the end of the game. When he's laying on the rock, or for me at least, I got the end of when he lays on the rock and watches what he dies as the sunset rises. As the sunset rises, you know, it should fade to black, the credits roll. That would have been amazing. Rewind it back to, like, I don't know, Horseshoe Overlook or Clemens Point or Shady Belle. You should be given the choice to go and live at one of them 3 camps pre-game ending, but have everything available for you at the end of the game, so you can still go and do the missions for Henry Lemieux or Hamish Sinclair, do all the stranger missions, get the horses, all the extra stuff there is to do. That would have been really, really cool. And then make Red Dead Redemption 3 set in like 1905, 1907, when the end or the epilogue in Red Dead 2 takes place, and have that game as John seeking revenge on Micah. Now, I know it would be difficult to drag a game like that out for 40 hours when they essentially did it in 6 in the epilogue, but it's Rockstar. They can fill it with anything they want to fill it with. They could have made Sadie and Charles and Uncle these more prolific characters. They could have written other characters in to help you out. It's kind of like the whole favour for a favour thing. Like, if you want information on him, you do a favour for me, and then that could contribute to a couple of hours worth of story missions and back and forward with a person there. Rockstar know how to fill their games out, and I thought that would have been a really, really good final stand in the trilogy. It would have been a good final moment for Arthur to hear him die. Game ends, and then, you know, that's it. You rewind, you play as Arthur, you're still invested in Arthur, but the thing that I found was that I wasn't invested in John even slightly anymore, so that when I played as John, I was like, I don't want to do this. I was like, I love this game more than anything, but I just want to play as Arthur Morgan. He is the man. He is the one that I want to play as. He is one of the coolest characters ever written, in my opinion, and I just love him more than anything. Now, the ending that I want is completely different to all of this. So this video is obviously titled How Red Dead Redemption Should Have Ended. Now, it should have ended, in my opinion, with the game they've already got, when Arthur dies. Or it should have ended when, you know, John gets a little bit down the line, blah, blah, blah. I don't mind, whatever you guys prefer, but I just think the third game, if they were going to do one or were serious about it, would either have to be set before Red Dead or after Arthur's death, and fill that gap between the second and first game, and you play as John. That's the only logical thing I personally could have seen happening. But the ending that I want is very, 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 very different, because Arthur, I don't think should have died at all. I don't think he should have been diagnosed with TB. I don't think he should have even had the final stand of Micah or failed. I think he should have killed Micah there and then, which would then made that ending of the game more satisfying, because he wouldn't have died. He would have. It will make sense in a minute. So he kills Micah there and then, so John doesn't have to go and avenge him. He doesn't have TB, so he doesn't die. Him and Dutch just go separate ways. Nothing happens with them. They have a standoff on the ridge. Him and Dutch say, you know what, we had a good run. And Dutch is like, you're like a son to me. I love you. You're my brother, blah, blah, blah. And walks in the opposite direction. Arthur knows that he cannot follow Dutch anymore and walks the other direction. So I don't think he should have been diagnosed with tuberculosis, purely because of the fact that Rockstar love doing this. They love killing off their main characters, and then, quite frankly, it's getting quite predictable. We knew that Arthur wasn't in Red Dead Redemption 1. We knew that his fate was either going to be something really, really bad or this perfect runaway story. So it's kind of annoying to see another one of their characters get killed off. They did it with John in Red Dead 1, they did it with the choice of Michael or Trevor in GTA 5, and now Red Dead 2, right? They're the last 3 Rockstar games, I think, that have come out, or the last 3 Rockstar games that have gained so much attention that they're, you know, they're in the limelight. They're the 3 biggest games they've made, arguably. I mean, even in GTA 4, I'm pretty sure you had the choice to kill Roman or something. He was a main character. San Andreas, there's a lot of main character deaths. There's a lot of death involved with Rockstar games, and I personally think that, you know, Lenny, Hosea, Kieran, and Sean was more than enough. That was more than enough deaths. Enough people left the camp to break your heart, let alone the Arthur being the icing on the cake. I think with Arthur, Rockstar should have subverted expectation. I know that's a very fancy way of saying it, but they should have. They should have completely got our hopes, not our hopes up, but they should have completely pushed us into this corner and thought Arthur was going to die, and then subverted our expectation, and something else happens. Now that thing is what I'm about to explain. So Arthur doesn't get diagnosed with tuberculosis, right? He's not dying. Guarma, he's a little bit sick. He comes back, he's underweight. You have to put all your weight back on by eating, blah, blah, blah. Beaver's Hollow happens. The gang turns to shit. You save John. You still become a good guy because you know that it's all coming to an end. But this is my proposition for how Red Dead 2 should have ended. I think Red Dead 2 should have ended with Arthur running away with Mary. Now, you may sit here and think, no, that's a stupid idea. But just hear me out. Mary's arc as such with Arthur, I thought was really, really well done, because they still love each other, but she knows that Arthur's not willing to leave this life. If Arthur wasn't sick and he was going to leave this life because he's had this turn of heart, he knows that the gang is turning to shit, he knows it's all going the wrong way, it's all going downhill, so why doesn't he just say, I'm done with this life, I want to live a normal life, I am going to go and live a normal life with the woman I love, Mary Linton. So what I propose is that the end of the game is essentially the same. If you help John, you help John escape. John goes, you have the standoff, Micah tackles you, but you have a fight with Micah, you kill Micah there and then, which then cancels out the whole point of the epilogue essentially, because you know what happens to John. You know he builds a ranch, you know he goes to New Austin, you know everything that happens in the first game, so you don't need to essentially play a couple of years before that and set it up. Why not just have a cutscene in the end credits that sets that whole thing up? The credits could set that up. So you kill Micah there and then. Dutch comes as a face-off and says, Arthur, you've killed Micah, what have you done? And he goes, I'm sorry Dutch, I had to, he's a rat. Dutch then realises Micah is in fact the rat. You have a little bit of a standoff. Dutch lowers his gun and says, I love you son, you're always going to be like a son to me, you're always going to be my brother. Walks one direction. Arthur says, I'm sorry Dutch, but it's all come to an end. I can't, like, loyalty, I've got to be loyal to what matters, which is what he said to John. He says loyalty, be loyal to what matters. He should then say to Dutch, I've got to be loyal to what matters, turns and walks the other way. The epilogue should then be set a couple of years later when he's trying to find Mary Linton. He should go and find Mary Linton, and the epilogue should be essentially the same as what it was with John, but more so in the fact that it's Arthur getting that money instead. So Arthur goes back to Blackwater, finds all the money, and says to Mary, listen, I'm a new man, this is a new me, this is my new life, I want to be with you, I want to live a life of normality, I've got all this money, come with me and we'll move away. And they move so far away from America that no one will ever find them, and that's why Arthur isn't in the first game, because he lives in a different country, in a completely different place where no one will find him, whether it be like Australia or England or Germany, somewhere in Europe, somewhere in, you know, Asia or in Russia or in, you know, Australia or New Zealand, like I said, so far away from America that no one finds him and no one even knows about him. And then in the first game, obviously, you know, you go on to play as John, you kill Javier, Bill and Dutch, and that's kind of it. That's kind of the finale. So the long and short of it is, where I think they should have ended it with the game they've got is at the end of chapter 6. If Arthur dies, it ends at chapter 6. But I think they should have subverted expectation. They shouldn't have killed Arthur off. Chapter 6, you should have killed Micah, and then the epilogue should have only been a couple of hours where you go back to Beaver's Hollow, you get the bag of money that was there originally, you then go back to Blackwater and find all of that gold and money by, you know, whether it be sheer luck or whether it be getting information from people to set up a new life. It should be like that, where you should find all this money, all this wealth, and then Arthur finally has something to help him escape this horrible life that he has lived, this evil life that he has lived. He's now a good man, he's now a free man, free of Dutch's grasp. He goes and finds the woman he loves, Mary Linton, and he escapes once and for all, maybe with her brother, definitely not with her dad, because we all saw how that turned out, and they just run away, go somewhere new. Or even if they went and lived in somewhere like Saint Denis, if you had a house down in Saint Denis, that would be cool, because then you've still got the thing like the ranch where you can go and, you know, go somewhere to sleep and eat and do chores and stuff. But instead of being John at the ranch with Abigail and Jack, you are Arthur with Mary Linton. And then maybe it would have been cool to have a little feature where you could go to Beach's ranch and see John and see how John is doing. But instead, obviously that's before they move away. Once they get this house to Saint Denis, they then decide, right, it's time we left the country. They leave the country, no one hunts them down in the first game. That is personally how I think Red Dead 2 should have ended. I know it's complicated and I've really overdone it, but the long and short of it, like I said, is Arthur kills Micah, goes separate ways with Dutch, finds all the money, takes all that money to Mary Linton and says, run away with me. And they just run away, because I'm so bored of Rockstar killing off their main characters every time, you know, without fail. It's just like, there's no choice to go back before they die. Like, no one wanted to play as Jack Marston in the first game. No one really wanted to play as John in this game, other than the people that are still invested in him from 8 years ago, which I'm not really sure how you could be, because it was 8 years ago. It's a new game, you know, it's a new character. Let us play as that character at the end of the game. I wanted to do the side quests as Arthur, not as John. So that's just my opinion. That is personally how I think Red Dead 2 should have ended, but I would like to know what you guys think. Whether you thought it ended at the perfect time, whether you should think it went on for longer, whether it was shorter. Let me know down in the comments below, and if you have enjoyed this video, remember to smash a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new around here, guys. I've been your boy CeeGee. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon with a brand spanking new video. Goodbye.